Welcome to Earthly Reads, a My Cup of Earth production. In a tiny village, nestled between two great mountains, there lived a little rabbit named Rosie. Rosie was a curious and adventurous rabbit, with a fluffy white coat and bright brown eyes that sparkled like the stars on a clear night. She loved to explore the world around her, and her favorite place to go was the nearby forest. One day, while out on an adventure, Rosie stumbled upon a hidden clearing deep in the forest. In the center of the clearing stood an enormous, ancient tree, its trunk twisted and gnarled with age. The tree seemed to hum with a gentle, magical energy, and Rosie felt drawn to it, as if it was calling to her. As she approached the tree, Rosie noticed that its branches were adorned with the most beautiful, shimmering leaves she had ever seen. The leaves seemed to change color before her very eyes, shifting from emerald green to sapphire blue and back again. Rosie reached out a paw to touch one of the leaves, and as she did, she felt a sudden surge of magic flow through her. The tree began to speak to Rosie in a low, rumbling voice, saying, "Welcome, little one. I have been waiting for you. My name is Oakley, and I am the guardian of this forest. I have been watching you, Rosie, and I am impressed with your sense of wonder and curiosity. You have a special gift, one that will allow you to communicate with the creatures of this forest in a way that no one else can." Rosie's eyes grew wide with excitement as Oakley continued to speak. "I sense that you are a kind and gentle soul, and that you will use your gift wisely. But first, you must learn to control it. Are you willing to learn, Rosie?" Rosie nodded eagerly, and Oakley began to teach her the ways of magic. For many days, Rosie spent hours with Oakley, learning how to harness her powers and communicate with the creatures of the forest. She learned how to talk to the birds, the squirrels, and even the ancient trees themselves. As Rosie's powers grew stronger, she began to notice that the forest was changing. The plants were growing taller and more vibrant, and the animals were thriving. The air was filled with the sweet scent of blooming flowers, and the sound of birdsong filled the air. But not everyone was happy with the changes in the forest. A group of mean and greedy creatures, led by a wicked old owl named Malicia, began to plot against Rosie and Oakley. They wanted to take control of the forest for themselves, and they were willing to do whatever it took to get it. Malicia and her followers began to spread darkness and fear throughout the forest, trying to drive away the creatures who were friendly to Rosie and Oakley. But Rosie and Oakley were not afraid. They knew that they had the support of the forest and its creatures, and they were determined to stand up against Malicia and her followers. One day, Malicia and her followers launched a surprise attack on Rosie and Oakley. They descended upon the clearing, their eyes glowing with malevolent intent. But Rosie and Oakley were ready for them. Rosie used her magic to summon a fierce storm, with lightning flashing across the sky and thunder booming through the forest. The creatures of the forest rallied around her, using their own unique abilities to defend against the attack. The birds flew in formation, pecking at the attackers with their sharp beaks. The squirrels chattered and scolded, distracting the enemies with their high-pitched noise. And the ancient trees themselves seemed to come to life, their branches tangling around the attackers like giant arms. Oakley, meanwhile, used his own magic to summon a powerful force field, protecting Rosie and the other creatures from harm. The force field glowed with a soft, blue light, and it seemed to pulse with the heartbeat of the forest. As the battle raged on, Rosie realized that she had to come up with a plan to defeat Malicia and her followers once and for all. She used her magic to communicate with the creatures of the forest, asking for their help and guidance. The birds, the squirrels, and the ancient trees all agreed to work together to defeat the enemy. They came up with a plan, using their unique abilities to outmaneuver and outsmart Malicia and her followers. In the end, It was Rosie who came up with the final plan. She used her magic to create a massive, shimmering wall of light, blocking the attackers from advancing any further. And then, with a burst of magic, she summoned a great, ancient tree to rise up from the earth, its branches reaching out to grab Malicia and her followers. The wicked old owl and her followers were trapped, unable to escape the tree's grasp. And with a final burst of magic, Rosie banished them from the forest, sending them fleeing back to their dark and twisted world. The forest erupted in cheers and celebration, as the creatures all gathered around Rosie and Oakley to thank them for their bravery and selflessness. From that day on, Rosie was hailed as a hero, and her name was whispered in awe throughout the land. And as for Malicia and her followers, they were never seen or heard from again, banished from the forest forever. The forest was once again a place of peace and harmony, where the creatures lived in balance and harmony with one another. Rosie and Oakley remained the best of friends, working together to maintain the balance of the forest and to protect it from any future threats. And Rosie continued to grow and learn, using her magic to help and protect the creatures of the forest. Years went by, and Rosie became a wise and powerful rabbit, respected and admired by all. And Oakley remained her loyal friend and mentor, guiding her on her journey and helping her to grow into the powerful and compassionate leader she was meant to be. And so, the story of Rosie and Oakley came to an end. But the magic of the forest lived on, a reminder to all of the power of friendship, courage, and determination. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.